I did the thing I complain about engineers doing when I'm trying to fix something. I made the space way too small for all this stuff. So it's like a rat's nest behind this kind of decorative facade. But it's all in there, and we're gonna see if it all works. You're probably wondering why I'm leaving all my zip ties super long, and I probably could have bought shorter zip ties, but that's okay. These are leftover from a different project. If you leave them long like this, they're soft. Let me show you. Alright, so pretend this is a bundle of wires. You put your zip tie around your bundle of wires, keeps it nice and tight. This is soft. If I clip it, now it's going to scratch me. And if I clip it even shorter, that's definitely, it's going to cut me open. So next thing up we have to do is our fuse boxes. Now I bought these a really long time ago. So this is a little fuse box kit. I'll leave down in the description a link to where you can find these. So it came, this is how you're supposed to install it. With a ground block, main positive end, and all of these are all fused connections that you put a little blade fuse in here. We're going to ignore the grounding block because we have our own ground bus bar. Everything is going to be tied to that, and this is what we're going to install. I'll put that on there and just mount it just like that. Trying to make everything the same. Okay. I like it. Then the very last thing we do is we drill a hole. But this main positive terminal needs a wire to go through it. So about the center of that. You should use wire strippers if you're not good at this, but if you are, I've been doing this kind of stuff for a while. Not building trucks, but using knives to strip wire for RC stuff for a very long time. You just stick it on there and you roll it, and you roll the wire at the same time you're rolling it on the knife. You just kind of roll it forward, and then you don't want to cut it, you just want to score it, bend it and break it and pull it off. Make sure you don't lose any strands, because if you lose any strands of wire, it can lower the amperage that this wire can carry. So you lower the amperage, which means now the fuse that you put on for this wire is stronger than the wire itself. It means you build excess heat and things can set on fire. So it's very easy to nick too many wires and pull too many wires out, and now you got a fire hazard. So and there it is. Okay. There's all 3 fuse boxes. Now we need to figure out a way to label these. And Stephanie wrote them down on a piece of paper, And now I've got to go through and put terminals on all of them, screw them into the fuse box, and then we can move on to the next one. You got to do 3 of these, and then we can do the rest of our gauges. Very top is our sea level 2 tank monitor. We saw it on Bussy McBusface. They said it was a really good monitor system for their fresh and gray and black tanks. So we picked one up too. This is our readout for our inverter, the 4000 watt split phase pure sine wave inverter. So it means it outputs 120 and 240. So we can run things like the welder off of it because it's 4000 watts as well. This is a Victron, what is this? What is the actual name for that thing? I'll look that up later. When we set that up, I'll give you the actual name for this one. But this is a Victron battery monitor. It reads the amount of current leaving the batteries, and it's got Bluetooth and all that other cool stuff. But this is a really good battery monitor based on the reviews on Amazon and based on other YouTubers telling us about it as well. These are all of our fuses, and as you can see, nothing is labeled. So Stephanie filled out a sheet saying what each one of these were as we were wiring them in. So we took the label that was on this and just slid it back so I can get it later if I need to. But it's written down and it'll be converted to a spreadsheet what each one of these fuses corresponds to. Going all the way down to the bottom, we've got our fuel gauge that says how much fuel is in our auxiliary diesel tank, the one that feeds all the heaters. I'm going to plug it in, and we should hopefully see, these are really cool fuse boxes here. It has a little light that says when the fuse is blown. So we should see a blown fuse on a couple of these circuits. I believe this one is the heater, if I remember right, the heater that's in the living room. I can't remember which one's the heater in the bedroom. And we should see another fuse saying that this gauge is, the fuse for the gauge is out. Another one of these lights come on down here. There might be one of these. I can't remember. But I'm going to give it power and see what happens. So, I'm a little bit nervous. There's a lot of connectivity, a lot of things being wired around, and a lot of things being wired and moved around in there. This is the first time the whole system will be energized. And we're still doing it off of this 400 watt computer power supply. This is not going to last very long. Well, I'm not going to power the whole truck off of this either, but this is just for now. So let's plug it in and then turn it on. Aha, so 2 things. These 2 here must be the, 3. So what is this?
What's the 3rd light for?
What is the 3rd light? Should we look at our sheet, or should we just put a fuse in it?
Put a fuse in it.
Where's the fuses? I don't know if I have 3 fuses. Okay, here's one fuse. That's 10 amp. A singular 10 amp fuse. Which one? I know that is the heater. Should we try this one?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Oh, look at that.
Oh!
Huh.
It works.
It does. That's pretty bright. I like that. Yeah. It's a decent angle too.
Turn it on. Wow.
Nice.
The camera had to adjust.
Nice. Okay. So that's that one. Then what's this other one? Oh, that's the gauges.
Oh yeah, because they're on now.
Cool.
At least that one is.
Yeah. So that's the fuel gauge. That one gets to stay. And then the heater. Or there's one more thing we can hook up. One more thing we can hook up. The exterior lights.
Yeah, the light just turned on.
So when this fuse panel turns this light on, it's sending a little bit of current through. And that little bit of current usually isn't enough to do anything, especially if it's blown a fuse. But it's just enough. If it's really dark, you can see our handle light light up because of that LED is so low power. It might be too bright to even see it right now.
But you could see those light up before you turn it on.
Really?
Yeah.
Still?
Let me go look.
Just a little bit?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. It'll always draw just a little bit of power. LEDs use so little power already. The slightest trickle will make them turn on. So let's do the exterior lights. So the max that we can ever put in these fuse panels is 20 amps. That's because that's the max that the wire can take. And you can undersize, that's fine, but never go over the max that your wire can take. So this is 12 gauge wire. The max we'll feed it ever is 20 amps.
There it is.
That's it?
Yeah.
You saw us install our DC circuits, our 12 volt DC circuits. Today I'm going to set up our panel for our 120 volt and 240 volt AC circuits. So that's a little bit different. Those took a fuse box. This takes a breaker panel. Maybe we can open this up. And these are not the breakers we're going to keep in here, but you've got slots for all different kinds of breakers, all different sizes, or different amounts, I should say. Up here in a typical house, we would have a 100 amp main, and then down from there, each circuit controls a different thing in the house. Ours, we're going to have a 50 amp main, because that's the most we can really pull. We don't need to pull more than 50 amps. So, and the wire that we're using is going to be a smaller diameter than what you would use for 100 amp. And this will probably stay 30 for our welder, but then everything else will be either 15 or 20 amps, that's what this is, 20 amps. So on this particular breaker panel, inside is on, outside is off. And I'm going to figure out a way to mount this on that wall right there. Lots of space.
Oh yeah.
I've got everything lined up how I want it. Now I just gotta find a little bit bigger head screw, throw it in there, and it should be all good. Start wiring up this panel. So this cover should sit nicely in here on that lip on either side, and then I can frame it out and make it look real nice. Nice and solid again. So for this time, it's got a breaker panel in it.
Ooh,
Nice.
like it.
I like it too. Well, I think we're ready to start running wire in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, so you can see there's a bunch of knockouts in here. You just gotta knock them out and pull them off. So these here are like, what are these called? A sheathed cable connector. It holds your wire and keeps the side of the metal box from cutting your wire. So they kind of just, I'm not gonna push it on because it has teeth that grabs the wire and keeps it from pulling out. But you just shove it in there and it holds it. So really good thing to use when you're doing a box like this, so you don't have to try and screw in the top connectors. So you just clip the little plastic tab so it makes it a little bit easier to go in, and then just shove it in there. And I want to glue this for every hole that I knocked out. They come in all different kind of sizes. Make sure you get the ones for the size that fits your box. There it is. Now I prepared this already, this first one, which happens to be our hood circuit, and I stripped it right here to where the sheathing is not connected. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. But this is where you stab these guys in. You want to pull it just until the little strip that you did goes through. Right there, and then stop. So now, how I did that, I have a nice set of wire strippers. Remember what I was saying in the last video? Don't be afraid to make it easy on yourself. Get yourself a set of Romex wire strippers. That's what this stuff is called. This yellow stuff that we're using is called Romex. This stuff has a hole for stripping 12 gauge wire, which is what this is, 12-2. Just put it in there, squeeze it, pull it apart, stripped wire. It has a hole for curling the wire. Just stick it in there, curls the wire really nicely, and then it has a spot for cutting the wire. Cuts it super easy. Can even cut the whole strand really easy. And then it has these grooved connections here for stripping the sheathing on the whole thing. So if I just take it and squeeze it, that sheathing is cut. And just pull it off. So that's how we're going to stab in all of these boxes. So I'm going to clip this one and then measure out to where it'll be just enough sticking into the box after I pull all my slack out. Just about right here. That's all I need to do. This is so that you can pull the sheathing off later. You don't want to reach into a box sideways and strip it. It's very easy to nick the wires when you do it like that. So I clip it right before I put it in the box. And then, I'm not sure if you watch my videos or not, but you know who you are if you told me that. Alright, so we can't do all of the circuits right now tonight because I only have enough breakers for 3 circuits. And one of those is the welder, this big 30 amp 240 breaker. It's going to go in right here, but it's going to have to wait. These ones we can hook up. These are both 20 amp 110 circuit breakers. And this little part clips in to the breaker panel. And then there's a bus bar here. Actually, let me clip this off first. So on a typical house, you have one phase down this side and the other phase down this side. So 240. So when it comes in from the house, you have hot, neutral, and then the ground is over here. When coming down into the breaker panel, it goes to these 2 bus bars. And so you got hot and hot. And then neutral is on the bus bar. So coming out of the cable, you come over and tie into the neutral with your white wire. The black one comes into the side of the breaker. The ground gets tied to your ground. All the grounds get tied together. All the neutrals get tied together. That's how you wire up a panel. Don't use that information and think you can go wire up your main panel in your house, because there's more to it than that. But the basics is that's how you wire up a panel. So when you use a 240 breaker, it has 2 little stab-in things on it. And if you look really closely, these are actually alternated. So this one comes down and hits this one, and this one comes down and hits this one. So when you put this one on, it clips in to those 2, and you get these 2 separate hots. On a 121, it clips only into 1, so you only get 1 hot. But then the next one down the line is going to get the next hot, so it'll get this one. That's how you clip in these breakers. And always size your breaker for the wire that you're using, and you should be golden. So we only have enough for, I'm not going to wire up the 241 right now. Just going to leave that be. So that means I only have enough breakers right now for 2 circuits. So what 2 circuits should I wire up? I think kitchen's going to be one of them. The bedroom, that would be nice. If we do the bedroom and the kitchen, then we get the whole truck. Alright, so this is how we have our temporary setup. Right now right now this main breaker is off, but coming in, we've got an extension cord. That's this blue wire here. The white is tied into the neutral bus bar, the green is tied into the ground bus bar, and then the black is split through this wire nut here into the 2 hot terminals on the main breaker. When I turn this main breaker on, all of these will be electrified, and then we can use these switches to turn on, or use these breakers to turn on each individual circuit. So I'll show you. This is hot. This is a non-contact voltage tester. You can use it to test the voltage in certain wires. Like this is right off our extension cord, or just the bare copper or bare aluminum pieces as well. So into the main breaker, it's hot, and then down here these are not hot. And then when I switch it on, now all of these are hot, but these are still off. So if I switch these on, now this is hot, which is the bed in the hallway. I'm going to turn that off because that's just dead on the other side. So I'll turn the kitchen one back on. So that's hot. It's hot right here. And if we pan over to the kitchen, one of these should be hot. This one. So this is our main feed for the kitchen. Eventually we'll have a GFCI breaker for this circuit because it's so close to the sink, and you want GFCI anywhere near water, so that's going to get a GFCI breaker, and then we'll have a everything on this circuit will be GFCI protected. And yeah, I'm going to turn this off, get the panel cover back on because this is dangerous to at least leave this live like that, and then we'll come back. Alright, so before we can put an outlet in, there's a couple of good things a couple of good practices. You don't have to, but you want to tie all these wires together and get them in the box where they can sit nicely. So in an outlet, it has 2 sides here that you could tie onto. So one of these blacks can go on one side and one black can go on the other. But that's not a good idea. It's easy to burn out your outlet like that. So we're going to do what's called making up. And I guess, yeah, making up is when you, it's like the second stage on wiring a house. It's when you tie everything in together and actually make your circuits. The first stage is the rough-in process, which you saw us do before we got our spray foam. Second phase is the makeup process, which is making all your connections how they're supposed to be. And then the third phase, the final phase, is trim out. We're not doing trim yet until after our paneling goes up. And then the trim is the final thing. That's what you're going to see forever. So that has to be nice. So this right now is just temporary. It's not our final outlet. It's just a temporary outlet, something we could use right now. So you want to collect all of one wire. I like to start with the grounds and stuff it on one side of the box. And then you can take your wire strippers and go about the same length as your wire strippers are. So that's your ground connection. Now in that, you want to tie on another ground. This is what's going to actually go to the outlet. So get that there and make that connection with the wire nut. Alright, ground is done. I'm going to leave that long for now. I'll worry about it here in a second. Next connection is the white we're going to mess with. I like to put that down here. Same thing, about as long as the strippers, but they're not as long as the strippers are, so I'll go just shy of that. And then strip these connections. And use a wire nut to join all of these. And when you're doing a wire nut, the important part isn't necessarily that all the sheathing lines up, is that all the tops of the copper lines up. That's what you want. Get that all tied together and make sure it's really tight. And then tug, make sure all your wires are not going to come out. And I'm holding on to the wire nut and pulling each one individually, just to make sure things aren't going to fall out. And the last one we're going to do, shove all that back in there. Last one we're going to do is a black wire. And this gets the exact same thing. Okay, nothing's pulling out. Now we just shove everything into the box. You want to make sure you shove it into the back of the box nice and tightly.
Got robins out there.
Mm-hmm.
So cute.
Okay, now I'm going to use the end of my hammer and make sure they're in there. You got to be careful not to push too hard on the corner of the wire nut. You can push in the middle, but not on the corner, because you can unspin it and then you'll have a loose connection. Now that that's done, give myself a decent length to work with. I'm going about halfway this yellow part. And this is the connection I'm actually going to make on my outlet. And this way, if the outlet fails, I don't lose the entire circuit. If you wire it directly into your outlet, if it fails, you will lose the entire circuit. So notice this side, the top, is going, when I spin this end, it spins this way, right? Just put this on slow. Spins to the right to tighten. So the top of this screw is going to the right. So when I put this on, it won't actually pull my wire out of the screw. That's important as well. And that's it. And then so you've got green to the bare wire, you've got the silver to the white, and you flip it over, you've got the bronze to the black. So a lot of people don't know exactly which way an outlet should be mounted. New construction, I put my grounds down. That's how it is in my house, my regular sticks and bricks house. I put the ground for the outlet to the ground. If I'm doing somebody else's house, or if I'm doing a remodel, or I just want to add an outlet in my house or somebody else's, I just copy whatever's on the wall. That's what they're used to. There's no use in switching it up on them. that outlet is done. Now I just want to plug my plug checker in there. Make sure I wired it properly. Here's the plug checker. You plug it in. You turn on your circuit. You should see 2 yellow lights and no red lights. Everything's going live. Make sure it's the first time I'm putting this panel back on. Okay. Oh, we don't know which one's the kitchen. I think it's the bottom. Yep, there we go. So this outlet is wired up correctly. If this light was on, it would be incorrect. These 2 yellow lights mean it's correct. Now, when you get your own plug checker, and I do recommend you get a plug checker if you're going to install any outlets, it's cheap. There's a little thing on it that says, one second, a little thing on it that says what each thing means. So your LED layout might be different. So there might be the red wire, might be, or the red light, it might be in the middle. But just look at your own outlet. It'll look at your own plug checker, and it'll tell you what's wrong. As far as how to fix it, I can't help with that. But at least you'll know what's wrong. You'll know what to search for. So when we tied those 2 wires together, we tied the outlet into this wire here. So this is hot too. I capped off the end with tape to make it safe, so we can work around it. But keep in mind, when you tie in stuff, you turn on a circuit, if you put an outlet in one and you tie everything together, you might have other parts of that circuit that are still live as well with no outlets. So just keep that in mind.